Hi, I'm Lisa Haisha, and welcome to the Legacy Series. Today I have with me the extraordinary Cristopher Howard.
Thank you for the extraordinary.
Yes, well, you are extraordinary. You've accomplished so much in your life. And the reason I created this Legacy Series is I wanted to share and give back to all those that are trying to search for meaning in their life. I think this generation, the millennials, are not sure which direction to go in, and with the economy, with education, it's not like it used to be. So life is presenting a few more challenges to them. So when they look at people who are successful today, like yourself, they need a roadmap of how to get there and to understand that it wasn't always easy, that there were setbacks. And how
Me,
you
never a setback. Never do. You're talking to the wrong guy. I've had it easy.
You're the only person who's had it easy. So we can talk about that and maybe a little tiny setback or two that you've had.
There's been a couple, but
yeah,
I love what you said
absolutely.
about meaning, though, in terms of the whole show and how you're doing this, because for me, meaning is everything. The meaning that we associate to our existence, the meaning to life, the meaning of career, the meaning of money, the meaning of relationships determines, from my perspective, determines every action that we take or choose not to take.
Yes.
And how we deal with adversity and all of that. And I've had times in life where I've lost my meaning, where it's like, well, I have no, there is no meaning to my life. There is no meaning to my existence. And that's a pretty depressed place to be.
Can you share when that happened, how old you were, the first time you felt that way?
I don't know. Well, I'm
And what happened and how you-
44. I'm like 44 and 10 days now, so I think it was
Okay.
44 and 9 days.
Okay.
No, no.
That's
The car ride over here. No. You know what? It's not. I'd love to be able to put it in a box, because we read the motivational books and stuff, and they say, boy, at this time of my life, this was the changing point where everything turned around, and now I'm thrilled and I'm happy, and I've never had another problem again, and you can have it too. It's not really for me. I've had lows and highs. It's kind of like what's that song by Frank Sinatra? That's life.
Yeah.
I've been a puppet, a pauper, a pirate, a poet, a pawn, and a king, and I've been all those things, and it's like. And I truly get that. I get that song. That's a very meaningful song now.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that for me personally, when I've had the biggest challenges, and you're looking for a description of one of those challenges that maybe I've had, or I've had times where I remember I was living. Here we are. We're in Sherman Oaks, California. I was living in Hermosa Beach, California, in a house on 7th Street that they were tearing down while I was living there. My father let me stay there. He expected rent, which I wasn't paying. I must have been 24 years old, I think. So I wasn't paying rent. They were tearing the house down. I hadn't paid my electricity, I hadn't paid the gas, so they cut the gas. So I was microwaving buckets of water to wash my hair with. You don't care about showers when you're 24, not when you're a guy. But I had to wash my hair.
Oh my God.
I was eating every third day, and
How old were you? 24.
I was 24. Yeah, and I was, there was always at that stage in my life, I did have a greater meaning to my experience, and the greater meaning that I had was that I felt that I was meant for something great. There was some sort of there was something I was meant to do that was great, and it was like a knowingness. There was a certainty within me that I was having a hard time, but I just had to make it through because it was, I was meant for greatness. And so this vision of the future, even though, Walt Disney was once asked, well, what's your vision for Disney? And he said, I don't know, but it's bright and it's glittery and it's out there someplace.
That's great.
I love that one.
Oh,
Yeah,
that is great.
Because it's often been like that. And so I had this bright, glittery future. So it was, and that gave me meaning to even the experience that I was in. That that crappy place where I was, that the fact that I was there meant that I had to overcome it so that I could achieve this future. There's been other times in my life where I felt lost and truly depressed at times, where I saw no way out, where it was just dark, and inevitably in every one of those times, it was because I didn't have a greater meaning to what was happening, or I couldn't. And maybe I was looking for meaning, but I couldn't I didn't have it anchored into me. What does this mean? What's the meaning, and what's the greater meaning that's going to cause this to be so rewarding in the future? what's going to cause me to step out in the future and turn and look back toward now and go, wow, that was the most amazing time in my life because I'm here. And I think that belief and certainty in that future is everything. I think is everything in a positive future. When the President of the United States comes out and gives the State of the Nation, so the State of the Nation is good, this is the direction that we're heading, and it's, I think that's, Napoleon Bonaparte said that the imagination rules the world. And I think that when the imagination is positive and we have a positive view of the future, I think everything, and that could either be the future conversation we're going to have with somebody who we're meeting for the first time on a date, or a positive view of the future for where we're going to go ultimately in our life. That determines the quality of our life on every level, I believe. Wow.
Well, okay, so you have...
You want to know more.
I do. I want to know more.
Meat, man.
Yeah, you have traveled all over the world. You have spoken how many countries? Probably 20 countries?
57.
57 countries.
Oh, no, 57 cities, 28 countries, I think, so something like that.
Okay, and you've made like $1 million a night.
Yeah, I've made up to $3 million in a day is my biggest, that's my... $3
million a day from 24, and you can't even eat every day, every 3 days, and you have to boil water to wash your hair. So how do you get from there to there, and what does it feel like, and were you a different person, or do you realize wherever you are, you're still you? Like, how did that shift you? Because now you're king of the world,
Well, now, I don't know if I'm king of the world now, but I feel...
Well, at that time.
Oh, at that time.
And now, then you come down again. Now you're coming up again, Yeah.
I don't know if I'm a pirate or a pauper, maybe I'm
somewhere
a king
in between,
now. I'm 44 years
in a
old.
different way. You deserve to be a king now. You've done a lot. Take your crown.
How do you get that? It's interesting because we were going and I was with my girlfriend Yvette, and we were cleaning out our storage shed. We were over at one of our storage sheds here in Los Angeles, and I found old books and manuals, and I had my Franklin Covey day planners, and
I remember those.
Yes, and I'm looking through them, and what was cool about them though was that they had the little storage binders, and so I'm looking through storage binders, and I'm seeing how many, the types of goals that I set and the things that were important to me back then, and I think that. I've always been very goal-oriented. There's no doubt about that, and I think that that's key. If you're not goal-oriented, they say if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. Yeah. So I look back, and it's like I was always working and striving towards something. I look at the types of goals. I mean, there was a time where I'm looking at the page, all the tasks that I had, and it was going right off the page and going on to a second page, and those were my to-dos for today. Now when I do to-dos for today, I'll write 4 things, and they're the 4 things that I know that I'll get accomplished today. I feel much better that way.
Absolutely. You can pat yourself on the back and actually have a dinner or something without feeling guilty because you have all of this to do. What a concept, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and I think that was like when I was 24, 25, I had I'm gonna get all this done, and I get some of it done, and I'm looking, and things would keep getting pushed off toward the future, and there was never enough now. So now it's like, okay, now these are the things I'm really going to get done. Another strategy that I've done that has really helped me is I'll make my today list and I'll make the universe list. So here's what I'm going to do. Here's what the universe is going to do for me today.
Yeah, I love that. I do that too.
Do you do that too?
I absolutely do.
Thank God.
This is the universe's plans. I'm going to just show up. I'm going to do this work, and then it's going to magically unfold. I don't know how. I don't need to know how.
But it will happen.
But it will happen.
And that's that faith.
Just show up every day.
Yeah, and that's that faith in the future once again. It's that belief in the future and the certainty and the...
And enjoying the journey. Just saying, this is part of the journey. This is the fun part. And people don't get that, but it really is.
I don't get it sometimes. I'm reminding myself as we have this conversation because I'm like, this is what I do.
Fun,
And I go, well, what about last Wednesday? Did you do that? So, I think that, I say that, if we were to have the conversation, Chris, what's the secret of life? I can't say that I got it. I think that you're constantly getting it all through your life, and I think that's the big joke, right? It's the cosmic joke is that
you never get it.
You never get it.
You think one day I'm going to know everything. One day I'm going to be happy. One day, once I have this, that's it for me.
Yeah.
I'm done.
That's
never.
That's how I feel. So like right now, it's there's always new things that you're breaking through, new learnings that you're getting, new ways of. And I think learning to enjoy the journey is part of the enjoyment too, because it's like, how do you enjoy it when, negative crappy things are happening in your life that you don't want to have happen, or
Especially things you have no control over, someone else attacking you or trying to.
Disappointment,
Yes.
betrayal.
Yes. So how do you deal with that? I know you've taught this all over the world, and I know a lot of your students who said, Chris changed my life. Christopher Howard's amazing. So how do you do it for yourself?
How do I do it
when
for
you
myself?
When you hit that rock bottom again, especially when you've been on top, then you hit at the bottom, then you climb up again, then you hit again,
and I've
how
been,
do you do
and I really have. I've been to both
Peaks
of
and
those
valleys,
places,
babe.
and it's peaks and valleys.
Yeah. And I've been with you for both.
Yeah, you have, and it's good.
Yeah.
No, it's beautiful. It's the funny thing is, and I'm sure I've told you this before, but I asked Richard Branson the same question. I said, how do you deal with all the stress? And he said, I have no stress. He said, if
Gotta love Richard.
Cool dude. He's like, I have no stress. He said, if there's nothing that could happen to me in business that's worth worrying about, if something happens to my health or the health of somebody in my family, that's a problem. He said, but in business, there's nothing that's worth worrying about. He said, if the Virgin companies were to fall out from underneath me today, I just go move to Bali or something. And so I had some business issues that came up, business partner, hostile takeover, all sorts of stuff that was going on. And I remembered Richard had said that, stuck out like a seed in my mind, and I went and I took off to Bali. And it was such an amazing healing experience to go. I mean, it's like, why would you go someplace like that? Number one, it's cheap. You can live like a king or a queen for nothing.
Yes.
Meals $4.
Yes.
You're in a rainforest jungle paradise. And for me, it was more about just connecting with the earth. And all I cared about on a daily basis when I was at my lowest low was jumping on my motorcycle and riding through the rainforest. And I remember I talked to a friend of mine who was a psychologist. And at the time when I was going through one of these really hard time, I had built this company. We did $100 million in sales. I lost it in a hostile takeover. There's a lot of stuff that happened. I never would have seen it coming in a million years. And it hit me really, really hard, really hard. I'm at the lowest low, and it's like the psychologist friend of mine that I was talking to, she's like, maybe you need to let go of your attachment to everything, your attachment to what was once your company, your attachment to your brand, because my brand was being decimated, just torn apart in the marketplace purposefully and willfully for a reason, to make me less credible. And at the time I was like, well, shit. Sorry, I don't know if I can say shit on your show, but if I can't, we can edit it out. We can beep it, or we can put that bump in there again. Boom, Chris got hit hard again. Don't say that on the show. But so I was like, well, how do I deal with all of this? And she said, maybe it's not just letting go of the attachment to the business, the brand, the need to be in control, the need to have your life any way. Maybe you need to also let go of the need to be needed. I mean, just let go of everything. And so I went into this phase that was a really healing phase for me of non-attachment to anything, where it was like, and I'll tell you what, it was the most peaceful place that I've ever been in my life. And, if only everybody could carry that level of peace around with them all the time in life, I think the world would be a much, much better place. I did that for a while, so it was a transition there. It was a transition. And then what happened was I was feeling great, but I wasn't going anyplace. And there's nothing wrong with not going anyplace if you don't want to, but still inside, and that goes back to meaning again.
Yes.
The meaning of my life had changed. The meaning of my life had changed from going out and making a difference on the planet and helping people transform their lives and doing all that stuff. The meaning of my life literally shifted to enjoying every moment of every day, and that was it. And I let go of my bigger ambitions. I let go of everything. All I wanted to do was enjoy my life and be fully present in my own life.
Okay, that's good. I want to stop you right there a little bit, because I want to know how you do that. Because a lot of ambitious people, and I work with some of these people here at the sanctuary, that say, I'm so ambitious, I have so many things to do. If they just let go of all their goals and dreams and just live life for like riding a motorcycle, they would like blow their brains out. They'd go, I can't, I'm still stressed out about how am I going to make money? How am I going to survive? How am I, I'm wasting my time. So they couldn't let go and relax. How do you let go and relax?
Well, and I think that's the big lesson for the A-type personalities.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like, and there's a lot out here. And I was extreme A, and the metaphor. I know the metaphor. Life will hit you with what my friend Lisa Garr said the other day, with a feather. I don't know. I don't know if I've ever been hit with a feather, but it's a feather. They said there's a brick, there's a stick, and a 2x4 in the face until you get your lesson, until you get what you need to get. I wouldn't have slowed down for anything. at that time, you know, and so that's and unfortunately for the A-type personality, you know, to get through to them sometimes without the 2x4 in the head can be very difficult. Sometimes it takes a life-altering situation, something that just radically gives you no other option but to wake up in a different way that you do anything about it. And you know, I'll get back to your original question, but it took something like that. It took a complete shock to my system to get me to say, you know what, nothing matters anymore. Even the meaning of having a meaning in life doesn't matter anymore. And and I'm my only meaning, and living this way is my only meaning. How did I mean, what was I doing during that time when I was in that space? I was waking up, I was eating right, taking care of myself, I was doing yoga every day, so I started to really just take care of myself.
So you
It was a night and day
you backed
change.
off, but in a healthy way.
In a
You
healthy
didn't go
way.
to drugs and alcohol and
No.
self-destruction.
Oh, I've been there too, but
Yeah,
you
but
know,
this time,
but this time-
consciously, yeah.
But this
Okay.
is so I backed off in a healthy, way. But for me, it was extremes. It's like, and that's what drove me there in the first place. Is that I had the extreme type A, and then I had to go all the way over to the other extreme because I drove myself too far in the one way. And I know you have people in your life that have done the same thing. You know, it's like so, and we all do. You know, it's like you know, you go extreme, and then and so I had to get those lessons that. And when I went the other way, I had to once again go to the extreme because, you know, I had developed such a negative association to business, to work, to everything. You know, I had to just be about me, and I lived like that for probably a year. And then I said, well, I've got to start moving someplace again. I got to start going someplace in my life. I need to find some meaning to my experience. And the funny thing was that I started to put together a team again. Because I had at one time there was 150 people worldwide that were helping me build this empire, and all of a sudden they disappeared overnight. So I started to put this team together, and to motivate a team, just like to motivate an individual, they say where there is no vision, the people perish. You know, and it's true. If there's no greater meaning, it's hard to incentivize yourself or others to work for it. So now I'm putting the team together, but you can't go to the team and say, hey, what's the purpose of our company or the mission of what we're working for? Well, it's to make Chris enjoy his life every day. You know, who's going to be motivated by that? Well, I'm fired up, Chris. Let's do that. Let's
get behind that.
Yeah, let's get behind that. So then I realized that I had to start finding meaning again, and it wasn't you know, it wasn't even so much for finding meaning for me so that I would feel any better because I was feeling great. It was about accomplishing something and creating something with and through other people, because I know what it takes to motivate people, and it's a grander vision, it's a grander mission, it's about being a part of something. And so it was to rally others together that I had to start finding my own meaning again. And if that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. You have to.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's, you know, the lost leader.
Yeah,
You could
exactly.
follow that. Even if you can motivate them once, they're going to start dissipating. Go, oh, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. You really have to have a solid meaning.
This is what it's about.
Yes,
this
if
is
you
what
wanna
we're
build.
creating.
Yes.
This is what we're, you know, this is the difference we're making. And it took a little while. It took me a full year to really start to grasp once again where I had been, because you know, when I got into the personal development industry, personal professional development, I didn't get in because I wanted to make a bunch of money. I didn't get in because I didn't even get in because I wanted to change the world. I got in because I wanted to change my world at first. I wanted to make my life everything that I thought it could be. I wanted to make my dreams happen.
Did you grow up middle class, lower class, upper class?
Kind of middle class.
Middle class, okay.
Yeah. So I wanted to make my dreams happen. I felt inside that I knew that I could. So I got into personal development, and I figured if I learned how to help other people do that, then surely I'd be able to make my own dreams happen.
Yes.
And you know, it's also a pattern that I saw with, you know, Gandhi didn't become the leader of his movement because he was altruistic by nature. He wanted to be a lawyer. He wanted to be something else. He wanted to be something that would give him significance in life until he found that the challenge defined him and helped him to redefine him. Same thing with Martin Luther King Jr. Wanted to be a preacher because he could have prestige, but the challenge of the moment defined him. And it's the challenges, I think, that that help to define our life, that help to define our mission, that help to define the dream and who we become. And so when I set out to go and make my life what I wanted it to be, and then I started to help people, it was like I found it to become more and more rewarding and more intoxicating, and it's like I really got into it. So here I am at one point speaking on stages to up to 6,000 people, and first time we went into London had 6,000 people in the audience there, and for me it was all about looking, like Mother Teresa said, when I look into people's eyes, I look and I see the face of God staring back at me. That's what it was about. I was going out there to make a huge impact in people's lives, and it was rich and it was rewarding and it was meaningful. But what I lost in the process of being that A-type personality was I lost me. And when you lose yourself, you got nothing else left to give, because I stretched myself too far. I pushed myself too much. Those pages of goals going off the page like that.
Yes.
So I had to learn how to redo it again and learn how to redo it in a different way, and put me first. And when you go back to what Richard Branson had said, if something happens to my health or the health of somebody in my family, that's a problem. So my values that got me to where I had been before were not the values that could continue to get me to where I needed to go in the future. So I had to redefine what's important. At one point, business was more important than health. Well, it can't be.
It can't be, especially the older you get.
Yeah.
But one thing about you is you're so funny. You find humor in everything. Even when you're down, you're always laughing. I've seen you, when you've been down, you're always making jokes. You bring a lot of people around you. You're really into community. Even if you're a loner sometimes, you're into community. And you're into, always helping others, lift them. So even when you're down, you're lifting others, which I think then reflects back on you, and you feel better about yourself.
I do my very best to do that.
Yeah.
There's no
it's
doubt about
giving
it.
back.
It's funny to hear people say, well, you do this, you do that, and it's like weird to hear, stuff about me. But from the core of my being, if I can make a difference in the lives of the people around me, I want to do that. And I heard a quote. Actually, I read it on the back of a book called Entrepreneurial Transitions by Roy Camerano, and he said that the inspired leader is the person who assists others to self-actualize in the accomplishment of a noble objective or noble vision. And I really took that one to heart, and it's like, that's what leadership's about. If you can help people to become everything that they can be on the path toward creating something that's noble, that to me is meaningful.
So what is your greatest gift?
My greatest gift, part of it's gifts and talents kind of go hand in hand.
Yes.
But my greatest gift is, I'd have to say, wow, that's a tough question. You said you were going to ask me 4 questions. And I
like, oh, you're so good.
Where did those questions go?
I passed those questions. I won't even ask you one of those yet. You took over.
My
going on
gift.
The Chris Howard train.
I don't know. Let's see. My greatest gift.
Probably a communicator. No?
Yeah, well, I kind of throw it into talent because I never felt naturally gifted at anything, to tell you the truth. I mean, I always...
That's brilliant. That's what I wanted to hear.
Okay.
Because everybody out there is saying, well, I don't have a gift. Chris has a gift of gab, or
he's way.
Got a high IQ, or he's good looking, and I'm not attractive, or I'm overweight, or I've got this disability, or how do they get that?
By the way, I could relate to every one of those you were saying on both sides. But
that's great, though, for people to hear. So how would you advise people to dig inside them and find out what they can do to reach?
Well, it's like, I think it was Larry Bird who said, a basketball player who said, it's about taking your naturally God-given talents and working your tail off.
People always say, I don't have that. I don't have a talent.
It's for me, it's the affinities. It's the thing that you're drawn toward. It's kind of like when people say, "Oh, how do I find my purpose in life?" I don't believe your purpose is about finding it. It's about choosing it. You choose your purpose in life, and you move toward those things. So just as you choose your purpose in life, you choose the things that are to become your talents, the things that you have the natural affinity toward. Where are you drawn? And for me,
okay. So what about people who have said, I'm drawn to nothing, and people have come to me and said, will you help me create a passion? I have no idea how to get passionate about anything. How do you...
See, I kind of have, I don't believe people when they say that, and because I hear that all the time over the years too.
Good,
like when I hear people say, I don't have a passion, I've got no passion, I think that they have caked themselves over with so many limiting beliefs, limiting choices about life, so many negative emotions, and let's get specific here.
Yeah.
Beliefs like they can't make it happen, they're not good enough, they don't have what it takes, they're not worthy, fear, anger, whatever, guilt, all those things that kind of bog us down and lower our vibration, that they're not being honest when they say that they don't have an affinity or something they'd love to do. They just don't believe that there's any way that they can make it happen if they could really do what they wanted to do. So part of it is, for me, getting that person to have a willingness to suspend disbelief just enough so that we can pull it out of them what it is that they really want to do, or pull out what they feel those affinities toward. And like I've had people say, well, I would really love to be, and I'm just going to make this up, I'd love to be a pet psychic, but I just don't believe you can really make money as a pet psychic. And eventually I'll get somebody to say something like that. Yeah. And I guarantee you can make money as a pet psychic.
Absolutely, yes, okay, yes. So whatever it is, if you're passionate about it, people buy it.
Well,
people buy into it to a certain degree.
Kind of, sort of. I think that there's ways to do it. I remember an early teacher said that money's a measurement of the value we create for other people. A later teacher said money's a measurement for the value that we create for other people in the eyes of the current marketplace. Because the market can either value it or not value it.
Yes.
And if they don't value what you bring to the table, your specialty or what you love may be making little seashell necklaces, but the market may not value that, and you may not be paid in relationship with it. But making those seashell necklaces, if we were to chunk up on that and say, what's important to you about that, it could be the creativity. And creativity, there's a lot of places we could go with creativity. So there's, in terms of helping to define our passion and stuff like that.
So what do you want your legacy to be?
Oh, God, I thought this would come. Yes. I told Yvette,
final question.
Over here, I'm like, what do you want your legacy to be? And this is, so I go back to, this is going to be a long answer. I'm sorry. You're trying to wrap up here. This is going to be a long answer. So when I go back to when I went to Bali and I was in this place of healing, it's like, what do I want my legacy? Well, if I let go of attachment to everything, even attachment to legacy, because before I had very clear mind of what I wanted my legacy to be. It was to build companies that made a difference on the planet, that left the world in a better place, that helped to eradicate poverty through education, through entrepreneurial means. And then all of a sudden I found myself in this place where I let go of all my attachment to everything, and it was no longer about legacy. It was just about enjoying my life every day. And I don't think people have to go to extremes like that if they get the lessons earlier. Maybe hearing somebody else's experience can help them to get the lessons earlier, so that they don't have to drive themselves to that point. Yeah. But so I let go of everything. So now my legacy's kind of redefining, and I go back to Walt Disney. I don't know, but it's bright and it's glittery. It's out there someplace. So I care less about legacy today than I did when I started. And the reason why is because legacy to me had always meant, how's my name going to live on? Or how's and I don't care how it's not that I don't care how my name lives on, but my life has become not so much about the attachment to
when you're gone.
Yeah, so when I'm gone, I'm gone, and it doesn't really matter. What I do want to do is I want to put more positivity into this quantum soup of pure potentiality that we live in than negativity. So if I can inject positivity by doing incredible works in the world, and there's things that are meaningful to me. I hate to hear about people. I hate to hear about injustice, especially in regards to women and children, that occurs around the world. I hate to hear about things like that. It irks me. It bugs me. I don't like to think about the fact that there's people that are starving in the world. So it's like I can imagine whatever it is that I create as we're moving forward, that we continue to help to liberate people's minds so that they can go out and be, do, have, and create whatever it is that they want in their life, and at the same time alleviate some of those major issues on the planet. How we do that, there was a time in my life where I would have said we want to eradicate poverty by this date, and we want to do this and that. It's not so much that anymore. Right now, it's just a direction, and it's like if I can put more good out, then I think nature of the world
That's
changes.
great. That's
So,
great.
yeah,
Yes.
that's how I'm thinking now. Yeah,
Okay.
you could interview me at the end of the year, and I might say something different.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it. It always changes, but you were wonderful.
Yeah.
You were wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much
You're
for
wonderful,
joining
too.
us today.
Yes, absolutely.
This was fun.
Yes, thank
Okay,
you.
Chris Howard.
Yay!